Hello everyone, welcome to Competition Edge. I'm Parini Sharma. In part 1 of this chapter, the Maurya Empire, we saw the rise of the Mauryas as well as their administrative, economic and social structures. We have now come to the second part of this chapter. It is a very important topic क्योंकि इसमें से हर competitive exam में questions आते ही हैं. So, without wasting time, let's get started. What are we going to learn in this video? First of all, we'll learn about Emperor Ashoka, how inscriptions are used as a source of history, then specifically about Ashokan inscriptions, what was Ashok's Dhamma, and finally, how the Maurya Empire came to a decline. Let's see who was Emperor Ashoka. The son of the second Mauryan Emperor Bindusar, and he succeeded his father to the throne in 273 BCE and ruled till 232 BCE. He is known for the expansion of the Mauryan Empire to Kalinga. Yes, Ashok waged a war against Kalinga, that is the present-day state of Odisha, and added it to the Maurya Empire. अशोक ने कलिंग के ऊपर युद्ध किया और उसे मौर्य साम्राज्य में सम्मिलित कर लिया. Over 1 lakh people were killed in this war, and this became a turning point in Ashok's life. After seeing so much of bloodshed, he decided that he will not fight any war again in future, and therefore became the emperor who gave up war even after winning it. After this, he turned to Buddhist philosophy and became the greatest patron of Buddhism. उन्होंने पूरे साम्राज्य में और दूसरे देशों में भी मिशनरीज यानी प्रचारक भेजे जो बुद्धिज्म का प्रचार कर सके. जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल, he sent his son Mahendra and daughter Sanghamitra to Sri Lanka to promote Buddhism. Also, he was the first ruler to issue inscriptions and stone edicts, which we will cover in a while. Now, before we move specifically to Ashokan inscriptions and stone edicts, let's first see what are these and how they can be used as a source of history. तो अगर simple words में बोलें तो inscriptions are writings on pillars, स्तंभलेख, and stone edicts are writings on stones यानी शिलालेख. शिला मतलब पत्थर and लेख मतलब पत्थर पर लिखा हुआ. And what makes them an important source of history? First of all, their durability. Because they are written on stones, they are more durable as compared to the written material which is perishable. पत्थर पर लिखा होने के कारण ये ज़्यादा टिकाऊ होते हैं लिखित मटेरियल के मुकाबले. Then any change to them can be easily detected. पत्थर पर जो चीज़ एक बार लिख दी गई उसके साथ की गई छेड़छाड़ बहुत आसानी से पकड़ी जा सकती है. हिंदी में भी कहावत होती है पत्थर की लकीर, मतलब उसको चेंज नहीं किया जा सकता. Then they reflect the day-to-day life. See, books generally reflect the ideologies and interpretations of their authors, but inscriptions tell us what was actually happening. For example, the rules of the empire. पत्थर पर अगर किसी राज्य के नियम लिखे हुए हैं, और if a certain place is visited by the emperor, या land grants given to a certain community or a person. And also, they provide datable information. कार्बन डेटिंग एक आर्कियोलॉजिकल मेथड है जिसके थ्रू ये पता लगाया जा सकता है कि कोई भी इंस्क्रिप्शन लगभग कितने साल पुराना है, एंड देयरफॉर प्रोवाइडिंग ऑलमोस्ट exact date. We shall now talk about specifically the Ashokan inscriptions. So these inscriptions are written in Prakrit language, mostly in the Brahmi script, and inscriptions in the northwest are written in the Kharoshthi script. Some inscriptions in Kandhar, that is present-day Afghanistan, are also written in the Greek language, which also shows that the Greeks had an influence in the northwestern parts of India. Then his inscriptions are an important source of information of his period, especially of Ashok's Dhamma, which we will cover further in the video. Now this is important. Ashokan inscriptions mention Ashok by the name Devanamapiya Piyadasi, which means beloved of the gods. अशोक के स्तंभ लेखों में अशोक को देवनामप्रिय प्रियदसी के नाम से बुलाया गया है, जिसका मतलब है देवताओं का प्यारा. Also, the inscriptions give an idea of the geographical boundaries of the empire. It is believed that in whichever places the inscriptions are found came under the rule of the king who issued them. This is a map which shows where the Ashokan inscriptions and stone edicts have been found. Cross stands for stone edicts and a triangle stands for pillar inscriptions. Since I could not find a proper map online, I drew one myself. I know it's a very crude map, so please bear with me. I have just marked the important sites which can be asked in competitive exams. This is what the Mauryan Empire would have looked like during the time of Emperor Ashoka. So the major pillar inscriptions are found at Topara, which is near Delhi, at Sarnath, which is also an important Buddhist site, then at Rampurva, which is in Bihar, and at Sanchi in Madhya Pradesh. The major stone edicts are found in Kandahar, which is present-day Afghanistan. Then there is a place called Shahbaz Gadi near Peshawar in Pakistan. Then in Mansehra, which is again in Pakistan. At Kalsi near Dehradun, Uttarakhand. Then at Dhauli, which is in Odisha. Sopara in Maharashtra, and a place called Eragudi in the Tiruchirappalli district of Tamil Nadu. And here you can see the capital of the Mauryan Empire, that is Patliputra. We shall now move to a very important part of this chapter, that is Ashok's Dhamma. Dhamma is a Prakrit word for the word Dharma in Sanskrit. Here you need to remember that in ancient India, the word Dharma did not mean religion. It meant a way of life. That is, how one should lead their lives. Example, Pita Dharma, that is how a father is supposed to behave, or Putra Dharma, how a son is supposed to behave. So do not confuse it with what we call religion or mazhab today. तो अशोक का धम्म भी यही बता रहा है कि जीवन में कैसा व्यवहार रखना चाहिए. तो a very important component of Ashok's धम्म is ahimsa, that is non-violence. और ये इससे पता चलता है कि in Rock Edict 1 he has imposed a ban on animal sacrifices. पशु बलि के ऊपर बैन लगा दिया है अशोक ने. Then he advocates for social responsibilities which should be taken by every individual, जैसे good conduct towards slaves and servants, अपने दास दासियों के प्रति अच्छा व्यवहार, obedience towards parents, माता पिता की बात मानना, and generosity towards friends and relatives, मित्रों के प्रति उदारता का भाव. He also says that people should have a feeling of compassion, truthfulness and purity towards each other. एक दूसरे के प्रति सद्भावना और सच्चाई का भाव. We have already seen in the part 1 of this chapter that there were so many sects that were coexisting at the same time. So Ashok calls for mutual respect towards each other. एक दूसरे के प्रति परस्पर सम्मान की भावना. अब ऐसा नहीं है कि धम्म का पालन सिर्फ प्रजा को ही करना है. He also mentions the duties of a king. जैसे welfare of his people is the duty of the king. It is the duty of the king to ensure their happiness. अपनी प्रजा का परोपकार और उनकी खुशी का ध्यान रखना एक राजा का धर्म है. And when he talks about the welfare of his people, a very unique thing mentioned in the Rock Edict 2 is that Ashoka made provisions for medical treatment, not only for the humans but also for the animals. राज्य के सिर्फ मनुष्य ही नहीं, जानवरों का भी ध्यान रखा जा रहा है. He also mentions that he planted medicinal herbs and digging of wells. कुएं खोदे जा रहे हैं पीने का पानी उपलब्ध कराने के लिए. We all know that Ashok renounced wars after seeing so much of bloodshed in Kalinga. So he goes on to say that war leads to suffering of all. युद्ध से सबकी हानि होती है. Therefore, Dhamma Vijaya. Now, what is this Dhamma Vijaya? Ashok says, if everyone starts leading their life as per Dhamma, अगर सब अपना जीवन धम्म के अनुसार जीने लगे, तो there will not be any conflict. तो एक दूसरे से कोई विरोध नहीं रहेगा, और विरोध नहीं रहेगा तो युद्ध भी नहीं होगा. तो एक दूसरे को युद्ध से नहीं, धम्म से जीतने की बात करते हैं अशोक. अशोक के धम्म का संदेश जन जन तक पहुंचाने के लिए ऑफिसर्स का एक स्पेशल कैडर तैयार किया गया, जिन्हें धम्म महामता कहा जाता था, जिनका काम था जनता में धम्म का प्रचार करना. दैट इज टू प्रोपगेट धम्म अमंगस्ट द पब्लिक. ऑल्सो अशोक हिमसेल्फ यूज्ड टू गो ऑन टूर्स वेयर ही आस्क्ड people questions about their well-being and told them about Dhamma. These were known as the Dhamma Yatras. Finally, we'll see how the Mauryan Empire came to a decline. See, since the Maurya Empire was so vast, it did not came to a decline all of a sudden. So it must have been a gradual process. Also, any one particular reason cannot be attributed to its decline. We will have a look at different reasons given by different historians for its decline. The very first such reason is the weak successors of Ashoka. That is, after Ashok, none of his successors was capable of handling such a big empire. Second is Ashok's pacifist policy. That is, his policy of no wars. This must have affected the preparedness of the army, and therefore the Mauryas were not able to resist any challenge posed to them. However, we also have to remember here that he did not disband the entire army. सेना को पूरी तरह से खत्म नहीं किया गया था. And did not put a ban on capital punishment. मृत्यु दंड पर भी बैन नहीं लगाया गया था. The third reason given by the historians is the vastness of the empire. That is, the empire became so vast that it became difficult to control it. साम्राज्य इतना बड़ा हो गया था कि उस पर नियंत्रण कर पाना बहुत मुश्किल हो गया था. And since it became difficult to control it, the provincial leaders started challenging the kings. That is, breaking up of the provinces. क्षेत्रीय क्षत्रपों ने अब राजा को चैलेंज करना शुरू कर दिया था, जिसकी वजह से एक एक राज्य धीरे धीरे करके टूटता चला गया. एंड दिस अल्टीमेटली लेड टू द डिक्लाइन ऑफ द मौर्यास. फाइनली, द लास्ट मौर्यन रूलर वाज ओवरथ्रोन बाय पुष्यमित्र शुंग, हु laid the foundations of the Shung dynasty. With this, we have come to the end of this video. In part 3 of this chapter, we will cover the art and sculpture of the Mauryan Empire. If you have any doubts so far, please ask them in the comment section. And if you like the video, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.